Everyone told her he wasn't the right choice, but her heart refused to listen. The night she first saw him, the rain was falling so hard it blurred the lines between right and wrong. She stood beneath the flickering streetlight outside the hospital, clutching her father's old coat around her shoulders, and stared at the man everyone in town had already decided to hate. He was standing across the street, soaked, silent, and alone, the reason her family had shattered, and in that impossible, unforgivable moment, her heart did something it was never supposed to do. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of love that changes people, take a second to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the heart sees what the world refuses to. Her name was Ariba Malik, 26 years old, school teacher, daughter of a respected factory supervisor who had worked his entire life in the same textile mill at the edge of town. The factory had been the pride of their small city, until the accident, a late-night machinery failure, a spark, a fire that swallowed half the building before anyone could stop it. Her father had been inside that night along with 7 other men. Only 4 came out alive. The newspapers needed someone to blame. The town needed someone to hate. And they found him. Zayan Shah, 32 years old, the new operations director sent from the head office in Karachi just 6 months before the fire. Educated abroad, calm, calculated, outsider. The reports claimed safety checks had been delayed under his supervision, that maintenance budgets had been cut, that warnings were ignored. Ariba never forgot the way her mother's hands trembled when she read his name in the paper. She never forgot the hospital corridor where she signed the final paperwork after her father's heart gave out from smoke damage 2 days later, and she certainly never forgot the anger that burned in her chest every time she saw Zayan's face on the news standing stiffly before microphones, offering deepest condolences. She was not supposed to love him. The town made that clear. Life after the fire felt like walking through ashes. Her mother stopped speaking about the future. Her younger brother dropped out of college to work part-time. The house grew smaller somehow, quieter. Ariba buried herself in her teaching job, pouring every ounce of herself into her students because it was easier than sitting alone with her grief. And then, 3 months after the accident, she saw him again. The factory had reopened partially under strict government supervision. Protesters gathered outside its gates almost every week, holding signs demanding justice. Ariba went once, standing at the back of the crowd, not shouting but not stopping anyone either. She told herself she needed closure. That was when she saw him up close for the first time. He wasn't behind a podium. He wasn't surrounded by reporters. He was kneeling beside an elderly woman who had fainted in the heat. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands steady as he poured water into a paper cup and helped her sit upright. There was no camera nearby, no applause, just a man with tired eyes and a face that looked older than his years. Something inside her shifted, and she hated herself for it. Weeks passed, and their paths crossed again, this time inside her classroom. The factory had announced a scholarship program for children of affected families. Zayan had come personally to review applications and meet teachers. When he stepped into her classroom, conversations stopped. The air felt charged. He recognized her immediately. She saw it in the way his expression changed, guilt flashing across his features like a shadow. He didn't offer a rehearsed apology. He didn't defend himself. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging a wound he knew he could never heal. She expected to despise him up close. Instead, she saw exhaustion. She saw a man carrying something heavy. Over the next few months, their interactions remained formal, brief, necessary. He approved scholarships for 3 of her students without hesitation. He funded new classroom supplies anonymously. He attended parent meetings without security, listening more than speaking. The town still whispered. Some called him heartless. Others called him a coward for not leaving. But he stayed. Ariba began noticing things she didn't want to notice. The way he visited the injured workers at their homes long after the headlines faded. The way he stood alone near the factory memorial late at night, reading the engraved names with his head bowed, the way he avoided public praise. One evening she found him there again, rain soaking his shirt as he stared at the stone wall where her father's name was carved. She should have walked away. Instead, she stood beside him. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument. She wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, to release the storm she had been holding inside, but when she finally looked at him, she saw tears in his eyes. He told her the truth, not in dramatic confessions, not in excuses, but in broken pieces. The safety report that had been delayed had not been his decision. He had flagged the issue weeks before the fire. Emails had gone unanswered by higher management. Budgets had been slashed long before he arrived. After the accident, the company lawyers had advised silence. Protect the brand, avoid liability. He could have left. He almost did. But he stayed because leaving felt like running from the ashes of men who deserve justice. He stayed to rebuild, to fix what he could, to ensure it never happened again. Ariba didn't forgive him that night. Forgiveness wasn't a switch. It was a long road paved with doubt and pain. But she saw something human in him, something raw and unpolished. The more she learned, the more complicated her anger became. Love does not arrive with permission. It doesn't check history before knocking. It grows in small, inconvenient moments, the way he listened when she spoke about her students, the way he remembered her brother's name, the way he admitted his own fear of failure. She fought it. Every time her mother mentioned her father's absence at the dinner table, guilt wrapped around her throat. Every time the town gossiped about the director who destroyed families, she felt like a traitor for seeing more than a headline. She wasn't supposed to love him. But love was already there, quiet and stubborn. The real challenge came when the investigation reopened. New evidence surfaced, internal documents leaked by a former executive. The truth began unraveling publicly. It showed that Zion had recommended shutting down the faulty unit weeks before the fire, but the board overruled him to avoid financial losses. The town's anger shifted. Apologies were murmured where accusations once roared, but the damage to his name had already been done. And to her heart. Because loving him meant facing her family. When she finally told her mother about her feelings, the silence that followed felt colder than any winter night. Her mother didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply looked at Ariba with tired eyes and asked how she could carry both grief and love for the same man. Ariba didn't have an answer. All she knew was that loving him didn't erase her father. It didn't diminish the loss. It didn't rewrite the pain. It simply acknowledged that sometimes blame is misplaced, and sometimes the person you were told to hate is fighting a battle no one sees. Zayn, for his part, tried to walk away when he realized what her feelings cost her. He told her she deserved someone without shadows attached to his name, someone who didn't remind her of smoke in hospital corridors. But she had already made her choice. She chose to see the man who stayed when it was easier to run, the man who rebuilt safety systems from the ground up, the man who created a permanent fund in the names of the workers lost, the man who carried guilt not because he was guilty, but because he cared. Love didn't fix everything overnight. The town needed time, her family needed time, she needed time. But slowly, cautiously, walls began to soften. The factory transformed under new policies. Transparency reports were made public. Worker committees were formed. Zion invited families to audit meetings, including hers. Healing wasn't dramatic. It was gradual, like dawn replacing darkness. And 1 year after the fire, at the memorial ceremony, Ariba stood beside him openly, not hiding, not ashamed. She placed flowers beneath her father's name and felt something unexpected, peace. Because love had not betrayed her father's memory, it had honored it. It had chosen integrity over resentment, truth over assumption. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to comment the word hope below. Let us know that you believe people are more than their worst headlines. In the end, Ariba understood something profound. She was never supposed to love him according to the world's rules. The world prefers simple villains and simple heroes. It prefers clear lines. But real life is messy. Real love is brave. It asks us to look deeper, to question louder, to forgive carefully but genuinely. She wasn't supposed to love him, yet she did. And in loving him, she discovered that healing is not about forgetting the fire. It's about choosing what you build from the ashes. Before we close, if this story moved you even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories. Your support keeps these stories alive, and your engagement means more than you know. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories are the ones that begin with never.